What's up, guys? D-Rock1992 here. For this next video, I am going to be... This is a video that I put off for a while, anyway. I am going to continue with the movie overviews for each month. The last one I did was July, so for the next 5 videos, I'm going to be doing the months of August, September, October, November, and this month. So this video will start out with with the big releases that came out in August. So without further ado, I'm going to get started. And the first wide release, first week of August, which was August 5th, there were 2 major movies that came out. And the first one that I'm going to talk about here is one that I saw in theaters. I believe it is the last film I've seen in theaters this year, and that was Suicide Squad. I do have my review up for Suicide Squad, so I won't talk too much about it here, but if you want to look back at that Suicide Squad review, I do have it on the channel. So, Suicide Squad was very successful financially. On a $175 million budget, it made $745.6 million. It is in the top 10 currently of... It is the 8th highest grossing film thus far of 2016. So, made its way in the top 10. This movie, the main people in the movie are Will Smith, Jared Leto, and Margot Robbie. The three build characters, the first three build characters in the, actors in this movie. However, Suicide Squad continued the trend for DC movies, or made money. DC movies have made money, but they've gotten mixed to negative reviews. Critically, for Suicide Squad, on Rotten Tomatoes, for example, it had a 26% overall, which I believe is the lowest in the DC universe thus far. So, not a lot of critics liked it, but it was a success financially. Audiences liked it. That really tells that audiences liked it because it got a B+ on CinemaScore, which is they poll audiences, and they got a B+. So people liked it. The second movie that I'm going to talk about that came out August 5th was 9 Lives. Has a pretty good cast in the movie. I mean, Kevin Spacey, Jennifer Garner, Christopher Walken. I believe it's about this executive who turns into a cat and has to figure out how to turn himself back into a human. So that's one of the... I haven't seen the movie, but on a budget of $30 million for this movie, it made $44.2 million. So, not a big total overall, box office wise. Probably a bit of a disappointment. Critically, though, it got butchered. 11% on Rotten Tomatoes. So, it very much bombed. So, I just wanted to mention that because of the actors and the fact that this movie bombed. So, it was a comedy, and it just did not translate well to the big screen. August 12th, the weekend of August 12th, there were 3 movies that came out that week that I'm going to talk about here. The first movie is Pete's Dragon, Disney movie. Pete's Dragon is the is a live-action adaptation of the original cartoon, musical film of 1977 called Pete's Dragon. Um, that movie was I think one of the rarities of the time, in that, well, not an extreme rarity, but Pete's Dragon, the 1977 version, was live action and it was animated as well. The dragon was animated, but the people around it were live action. This movie is the same, pretty much the same thing. It is a remake. Pete's Dragon stars a couple names: Carl Urban, Bryce Dallas Howard, Robert Redford are some of the names there. And overall, budget of $65 million, it made $142.8 million. So it made money. It did make money for sure. So it was a success financially. Critically, it has an 86%. So it was pretty successful critically as well. And audiences gave it an A. So, according to CinemaScore. So, yeah. Pete's Dragon was another successful movie in the Disney catalog. By the way, according to CinemaScore, audiences did give 9 Lives a B+. So, it was good. It was a good grade, just the movie itself was critically panned. Anyway, the second movie I'm going to talk about for the week of August 12th was a movie that I saw probably a couple months ago, and I really enjoyed it. Sausage Party. Sausage Party, I enjoyed it so much I have the Blu-ray for it. I will have my review for Sausage Party up pretty soon, so I'm not going to talk too much about Sausage Party, but it stars an all-star cast. Seth Rogen, Kristen Wiig, Jonah Hill, Bill Hader, James Franco, Danny McBride, Paul Rudd, Craig Robinson, Edward Norton, Salma Hayek, and more. So Sausage Party has the distinction of being the first ever R-rated CGI film. So it has that definite distinction. And Sausage Party was a big success financially. On a budget of $19 million, it made $140.5 million. So very successful. And critically, the movie got an 84% on Rotten Tomatoes. So critically and financially successful. Audiences enjoyed it. They gave the film a B, according to CinemaScore. So the CinemaScore and the box office, they really, I think there's a connection there for sure, because you have the people that are seeing the movie, and they are pulled by the CinemaScore, and they give the grade that they that they grade and all that. So I think CinemaScore and box office totals, it says a lot, for sure. And for this particular movie, people liked it. And then the final movie that I'm going to talk about for the week of August 12th was Hell or High Water, which is being looked at as, I believe it's being looked at for an Oscar nomination for this movie. Hell or High Water stars Jeff Bridges, Chris Pine. It's a neo-western film, so it's a western. That is one genre, by the way, the western genre, that is not. There's not a lot of movies anymore that come out that are westerns, and it used to be huge back then on TV and in the movies. the Western genre was huge. Then it fell. Then it fell from grace a little bit, but we've gotten some good westerns over the years. Anyway, this was a smaller movie. On a budget of $12 million, it made $31.1 million. So it was very successful. It was successful for a smaller film. Made about twice its total. A little less than twice the total. Critically, however, it has a 98%, so very much a high critical praise going to this movie. So a lot of critics like this film, and don't be surprised if you see this movie going to as one of the nominees for Best Picture, because there was a lot of critical acclaim attached to the movie. Even though the majority of people will not see this movie, it's still probably going to be nominated. So, next up on the list, we have 3 movies that came out August 19th, the weekend of August 19th. The first movie I'm going to talk about here is Kubo and the Two Strings, a animated film. This is another animated film in a year where we've had a lot of them. We've had quite a bit of animated films. So, it's a stop-motion animated film. Kubo and the Two Strings stars some big names. Charlize Theron, Ray Fiennes, George Takei, Matthew McConaughey. It was pretty a pretty big voice cast. And for the film overall, on a $60 million budget, it only made $69.9 million. So, not enough people saw it. I mean, you have to consider it a kind of a loss overall, because it just didn't make a lot of money past $60 million. But critically, it has a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. So, Kubo and the Two Strings, that could go up for Best Animated Feature, Best Animated Film overall. It has a lot of competition, but it will probably be up there. And CinemaScore, the people who did see Kubo and the Two Strings gave it an A. So audiences liked it and critics liked it. So don't be surprised if you see it nominated for Best Animated Feature, because it probably will. So one of the biggest successes of for an animation film this year. Now, the second movie that I'm going to talk about that came out the week of August 19th is War Dogs. War Dogs stars 2 big names, Jonah Hill and Miles Teller. War Dogs is about these 2 arms dealers who have a contract from the U.S. Army to supply weapons to the Afghan National Army. So, War Dogs is one that I haven't seen War Dogs yet, but I would be excited to see it. I mean, I probably will see it eventually, because of the 2 names mostly. Overall, though, it did pretty well. On a $40 million budget, it made $86.2 million. So it did pretty well for itself. Made more than half of its budget back. So, made more than half of its budget, so successful there. Critically, it had a 59%, so it received mixed reviews overall. And audiences, they gave War Dogs an average grade of B. So, audiences enjoyed it, and it showed because War Dogs was a success. So, the next film, the final film I'm going to talk about that came out the week of August 19th was another remake, Ben-Hur. Ben-Hur was a very popular. It was critically acclaimed. It was an Academy Award-winning 1959 film. with the original Ben-Hur. Actually, not the original Ben-Hur. There were two silent films before this 1959 film, but the 1959 Ben-Hur version is considered gold. It's one of the greatest. It's considered one of the top movies of all time. So, there you go. I mean, this movie had a lot to live up to. And it was a box office bomb. On a budget, it made $100 million. And it only made $94.1 million. So, this movie was a box office bomb. Unfortunately, this is a remake that just didn't work. And but the movie had Jack Huston, who is it's very unique, actually. So he played the lead role. Jack Huston did. Morgan Freeman was in the film. Morgan Freeman is in a lot of films. But Morgan Freeman is in this film. Rodrigo Santoro is in the movie as well, who played the main villain in the 300 movies. Critically, for Ben-Hur, it received a 25% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So, it was very critically derided. But the people who did see the movie gave the film an A-. So the people who did see this movie were very, were very pleased with it. So, but Ben-Hur is just an example of the fact that Hollywood loves remakes of movies. They love them. And there are some remakes that are better than the original, but most of them don't live up to the original. And with Ben-Hur, this was the case, that this version of Ben-Hur did not live up to the 1959 film. So next up on the list of August movies, talk about the final weekend of August, August 26th, and there's three movies I'm going to talk about here. First one is the thriller Don't Breathe, a horror film. I'm not a big fan of horror. I'm not a big fan of horror films. Never have been. But this film made a lot of money. First off, on a $9.9 million budget, it made $153.2 million. A lot of people saw it, so a lot of people supported the film, and it was financially successful. Critically, it receives an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is a rarity for a horror film these days, because you see a lot of horror films get negative reviews. They either are critically panned, or there are the rare horror movies that actually get good reviews. So this movie just falls in the very good reviews category. So Don't Breathe was a big success. Second movie I'm going to talk about for the week was Mechanic Resurrection. And this is a sequel. Again, Hollywood loves remakes, and they love sequels too. So, Mechanic Resurrection is a sequel to the 2011 film The Mechanic, which was actually a remake itself. But this is the sequel to the 2011 version. This is a Jason Statham movie, so Jason Statham's in the movie. Tommy Lee Jones, one of my favorite actors, is in the movie, and Jessica Alba. So Mechanic Resurrection made its money. $40 million budget, it made $125.7 million. So, it did very well. It did very well, overall. But, critically, it only received a 26% on Rotten Tomatoes. So, good numbers financially, but negative reviews. By the way, the Don't Breathe movie, on CinemaScore, actually, it does not have it here. Let's see. CinemaScore for Mechanic Resurrection, audiences enjoyed it. They gave it a B+. So, good numbers there for sure. And then the final movie I'm going to talk about that came out in August, the week of August 26th, is the movie Hands of Stone. It's a biographical sports film about former professional boxer Roberto Duran. It stars Edgar Ramirez. Robert De Niro makes an appearance in the movie. He plays a supporting role. Usher, the singer Usher, plays a role in this movie. So, good there. It was a box office bomb. Unfortunately, on a $20 million budget, it made only $5 million. So, unfortunately, it was a bomb. It did not make a lot of money. It received a 45% overall on Rotten Tomatoes. So very mixed reviews for sure. And however, CinemaScore, for the people who did see Hands of Stone, they gave it an A+. So the audience who did see this movie really liked it, but critically it was very mixed. So, and that's it for August. That's it for the month of August. It was the final month of blockbuster films. Pretty much the final month of the blockbuster type film. And we didn't see a lot of big time. I mean, the blockbuster film for that month was Suicide Squad. But there were other movies that made a good chunk of change for sure. So now, as we go into September, we're entering Oscar season. We're entering the Oscar season for sure. So there's going to be a lot of movies between September and December that are going to merit serious Oscar consideration. So, yeah, that is it for the month of August. Stay tuned for the next video on the month of September. So that's it for this video. D-Rock 1992 out.